Good morning, everyone. Richard here at Kalamazoo with another video for you. And as the title suggests, I'm going to show some obscure and some arcane and some weird music records. It's going to be a long video. I've got some needle drops, so with some samples. So I'll get started here. Most of these are new acquisitions. It was just kind of a mood I was in, or maybe it wasn't the mood. Maybe it's just, I just happened to see these records, and they are, some of them are a little more obscure than others, the musical artists, etc. So I hope I'll be able to provide some explanation to you in description about the music and the artist. And okay, let's start off. And the first record I'm going to show is this one here by Cabaret Voltaire, Code. So yeah, I was in a record store and they had a bunch of Cabaret Voltaire in the new acquisition section. So they must have acquired somebody's collection who had a lot of Cabaret Voltaire, and I had heard of them but didn't really know about them. So this one apparently is considered their most accessible, and it's electronic synth pop. So we're talking about something from like 1987. They were formed in 1973 in Sheffield, England. And it's good. I like this. And reminds me of, other similar music, that I was listening to at that time. So here is a needle drop. I believe this is the song Don't Argue.
You are in enemy country. Be alert. Suspicious of everyone. Take no chances. There is no free speech. Read no free press. They were brought up on straight propaganda. They have been trained to hate and destroy. Don't argue with them.
It's not safe to go out. It's not right to stay home. Listen, my advice is to carry a gun. But it's not right to leave everyone wondering how. Listen, if you're gonna drop it, then drop it now. Who cares what goes? Who cares what you know? Who cares what you do without? Who cares what's so? Who cares what goes? Who cares what you know? Who cares what you do without? Who cares what's so? What goes? What you know?
And we can show, here's the label. So yeah, listening to that, I started thinking, okay, this reminds me a little bit about another, synth pop band at the time, and that would be Big Audio Dynamite. So this was Mick Jones starting this group after The Clash. And Big Audio Dynamite was released in 1984, so that was prior to this, the other release by Cabaret Voltaire. But remember, Cabaret Voltaire has been, together since 1973. Again, this is something that, I really, really liked. And the song I'm going to play a bit for you is the opening track, Medicine Show.
Three coffins ready.
Covered wagon, medicine shop. Take it to a place where the healing flows. Oh, wicked spirit, we got the juice. Won't save your soul in the shiny shoes. Oh, Genie King to Kangaroo, Santa Fe to Timbuktu. Oh, don't be fooled by imitation. This is the stop that cured a nation. We took the tube and the high plains too. Never stopped long, just passing through. Draw for the laughter of the maidens. Makes a hopeless cripple dance. Oh, it was really foul weather when we got torn and feathered. You could hear the six-gun sound as they chased us out of town. Oh, in India.
Now, the other thing with these two records, the influence they had on subsequent musical artists. And one of them that came to mind, and I've had this CD for a while, is LaTour. Okay? So this is William LaTour, and he was a former member of a Chicago punk band known as the Squids. So this was released in 1991, but it was, all part of the synth pop movement, but also, mixing in guitars. And there were a couple of songs on this release that were quite popular in the dance clubs, at that time. So I'm going to play for you a sample. First, I actually got two samples. The first one is called Alan's Got a New Hi-Fi. Powerful, to me, very powerful anthemic-like song. You're probably more familiar if you remember from that era. If you're, an oldster like I am, you probably remember the song People Are Still Having Sex. Now, another song, I won't play for you, but another song that was on here was called Blue. And Blue was, you can hear that in the soundtrack to the film Basic Instinct, which came out in 1992. So this was, it was picked up and used right about that time. However, if you buy the soundtrack to Basic Instinct, the song doesn't show up. Yeah, the whole synth pop movement of this particular era, and there were other bands, there was Depeche Mode, many other bands, and I can remember friends of mine who were musical friends, okay, who really just hated this music, and they would say really mean things about, when they listened to like Big Audio Dynamite, their reply was, "This is faggot music." And I'm like, I guess some people simply do not like the synth pop sound. But to me, if you are musically knowledgeable in any way, it's to have such a bias against a particular genre of music, to me is, I don't know, it's very atavistic in a way. It's ultra conservative to think that only a certain style of music using certain musical instruments, is real music. Kind of like, the people who say that, oh, I only listen to classical music, and that's the only thing I can listen to. I mean, we have our musical preferences, and there's types of music we may not like. Or we just get no enjoyment out of it. But to be so derogatory about a particular style of music, and I'm going to have some other examples here of some really weird stuff, is, I don't know, it just seems to be a very narrow-minded view of music in general. Just, my thoughts on that. By the way, man, I would love to get this on vinyl. Back when CDs were being released, they used to have these little codes you can see on the back here. All right. It says AAD, which means that the original master was analog. So, and there were vinyl releases of this. Hard to find, but they're not really expensive if you do find one. I would love to get a vinyl copy of this because I really like this release. He never really did anything that caught on. I think he released one more record, and that was it. He just kind of dropped away from the music scene. But the records I do see are mostly from European vendors, and they're not expensive, but by the time you add shipping in, it's just, but yeah, I'm always on the hunt for the vinyl release of the eponymous LaTour. Okay, the next one is, I don't have a needle drop for it, but the band was known as Pearls Before Swine, and this is the record is Balaclava. All right, so Pearls Before Swine was primarily Tom Rapp, who has a interesting connection with Bob Dylan. They both competed together when they were kids in a talent show, and pretty much singing the same thing, folk tunes. And they were in, I don't know, maybe it was middle school or could have been high school when they compete. This was in Hibbing, Minnesota. They're both from that, northern states. I believe Rapp is actually from North Dakota. Anyway, they didn't, win. They were both beaten by a baton twirler. So I'm going to do I don't have a needle drop. I'm going to do another short video because I now have 3 albums, I think it is, from Pearls Before Swine. But it's folk music. kind of with a psychedelic and very, very progressive and political message going through. Also, a little jibes at religion in the music. I mean, this cover is just really, really wild. It's nice that they are reissuing these. This is a reissue. Yeah, like I say, I'll be doing a video of just the Pearls Before Swine releases. All right, so the next one is a Canadian band from Vancouver, British Columbia, and the band is Dead Ghosts. All right, here is their eponymous debut. All right, this was released in 2010. And I had listened to them online, and I just really, really dug them. So they've been on my want list. Originals are pricey, but they've started reissuing, which is always great. And here is a track for you to listen to by the Dead Ghosts. So you can hear that Dead Ghosts very much a garage rock, lo-fi, little bit on the psychedelic side. That's, their sound, good stuff. I really enjoy that one. Now, this is another one that I saw recently, and it's been one that I've been looking for a very, very long time. But every time I saw a copy of it, it was just beat to hell and hardly worth the price. And I finally found one in great condition, and that's this here, The Secret Policeman's Ball, the music. So this was released in 1981. There was a series of records. I just remember hearing some of the songs, they would be played on the radio. And so they played, there's Pete Townsend on here, John Williams, Neil Innes. And most radio stations would play songs by Pete Townsend. And there is a song on here, and I'm going to play the needle drop for you, by Tom Robinson. And the song is called Glad to Be Gay. So there, take a listen to that.
The British police are the best in the world. I don't believe one of these stories I've heard about them raiding gay bars for no reason at all. Lining the customers up by the wall, picking out people, knocking them down, resisting arrest as they're kicked on the ground, searching their houses and calling them queer. I don't believe that sort of thing happens here. You don't have to be gay to sing on this chorus, but it helps. Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way.
So, Tom Robinson is he's a punker. He's a punk rocker. The Tom Robinson Band was a very influential punk rock group. So one of their releases I would recommend you get is this one here, The Power and the Darkness. And yeah, this is really good stuff. He was a very political punk rocker. And this particular album is considered very, very influential and important in the punk music genre. So that was pretty cool because again, even though I'd been looking for the Secret Policeman's Ball release, and by the way, this is from 1978. Even though I was looking for that release for so long, I didn't know that Tom Robinson was part of that whole thing, and so it was very, very cool. And if you're a straight person, a little nervous, straight boy, nervous about listening to this kind of music, don't worry about the Tom Robinson Band. It's yeah, there's some songs that have a gay theme to them, but believe me, he's not like this punk band. All right, so you're safe. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now the next band is someone I've been really, really enjoying, and I've finally got most of their catalog because they've been reissued or been issued here in the United States and in the US. It's a Japanese band, so their records have been very pricey, especially if you are getting the Japanese releases. Excuse me, but the band is called Toe, and I'm going to do a more in-depth video about this band. This one is the record Hear You, on this really wild green and neon yellow wax. It was released in 2015. So here, take a listen to a song from Toe, Hear You. So I would categorize their music as being post-rock, math rock. And I just really love the stuff. Math rock, if you're unfamiliar with it, is it's very focused on time and rhythm, and usually the songs, the bass is often the instrument that is keeping the time, but they don't have a bass. But with math rock, it's more focused on the drums, on the percussion. And the one thing that you can tell when you're listening to math rock, I think one way is, when you're listening to the music, and you're tapping your foot along with it, and then all of a sudden you realize that your foot tapping is no longer in sync with the music, and then it goes back to what you were foot tapping about, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of time signature changes, and sometimes even different instruments are playing in different time signatures. So I mean, it became, you know, a genre in the post-punk period. Maybe you could think of a progenitor of math rock being, and why I hate it when I can't remember a band's name, and they're right down here, I think. Oh God, why am I having Slint? Yeah, Slint may have been a progenitor of that. But you know, even bands like King Crimson and Frank Zappa, you know, were doing this kind of thing. It just didn't get, you know, categorized as a, you know, subgenre of music. But anyway, Toe, great stuff. I wish another Japanese math rock band that I really dig is Mouse on the Keys. And man, their stuff is a lot more difficult to find, and often is a Japanese release that is really, really expensive. I have one Mouse on the Keys release, and yeah, I would really love to get some of their stuff. That's another Japanese math rock band. They also they bring in some jazz elements as well. It's just great music. All right, so now the next one. This one may be a little more arcane for some viewers, and this is Wall of Voodoo, and this is a eponymous EP, and it's actually on the back of the label here. You can see, you know, fading. You know, it had a promo stamp on it. Cover's in pretty rough shape. And then you can see that it's got these initials on here, KSJS. So this was a radio copy, and KSJS was the college radio station at San Jose State University. The record was released in 1980, and here's the, you know, label. And the needle drop I'm going to play for you is their cover of Ring of Fire. You know, that Johnny Cash song got covered a lot by a lot of different bands. You know, it was a fun one to do. So now going into perhaps a little in the obscure area is a well-known artist, but it's early material by her, and that's Linda Ronstadt when she was with the Stone Poneys. All right, so I've been on the hunt for records by the Stone Poneys. They don't show up. They're not expensive when they do, at least so far with my experience. And I found this one here. So this is actually a compilation On side one, you've got David Clayton Thomas, from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, doing some really good rock and roll, even with a little garage rock edge. And then side two is Linda Ronstadt in the Stone Poneys. And I will play for you a drop here where she's doing a cover of Different Drum by Michael Nesmith, former Monkey. So good stuff. The Stone Poneys period was from like 1967 to 1968. And then, she developed a solo career after that. This is on a Pickwick label. And this is actually a reissue. But the actual date of release, I have had difficulty tracking that down when the original release date was for this record. So it would have been late 60s. But this was not an original. This was a reissue that came after. All right, now we're getting into the more Arcane again. And we're going to talk about a performer, guitar player, noted for slide guitar. And that is a fellow who was known as Snakefinger. Now, Snakefinger played with the Residents, all right? And that's who gave him the name Snakefinger. And this is a live recording from Melbourne, Australia. It was a concert on March 5th, 1981. And his original name, or his real name, I should say, is Philip Lithman. And so the Residents ended up giving him the name, or the moniker Snakefinger, which he initially didn't like, but he accepted it afterward. This is a great release, and it's on some very bright neon pink. You can see the label there, wax, and here's a needle drop for you from that.
I'm the man in the dark sedan.
Now, to give you a little idea, some more information on Snakefinger, on the inside you can see they show all the different releases that Snakefinger is on, including many releases by the Residents. It's got a quote in here from Jello Biafra talking about him, Brian Poole of Ronaldo, Maggie Swatton of Peggy Honeydew. So this is it's a three-sided record, and he died. All right, so this concert was from 1981. He died in 1987 from a heart attack, and it was not his first heart attack. He had a major heart attack in 1980 and was hospitalized for 6 months. And when he had the fatal heart attack, he was on tour, and I believe it was in Austria when that happened. Yeah, he was in Austria touring with his current band, the Vestal Virgins. So, really significant loss, in the music world and also in the more Arcane, as I was saying. Now, of course, because of his connection with the Residents, the members of the residents were also deeply saddened by the loss. And so they put together a show called The Snaky Wake. And that's released here. And this was released in 1987, so shortly after he died. There he is on the back with two of the residents. You get another photo of him here. And side one is the studio version of the Wake. And then side two is a live version of the Wake. I'm going to play a little needle drop here because the opening track is actually what they're doing is they're playing their cover of Hank Williams' 6 More Miles to the Graveyard. So the live version of this show, let me read the description that's in the record here about the show. Excuse me. The residents arrived in black, more black net wrapped around their bodies, and each carried an open black umbrella. They went to their instruments without introduction and hurled into an eerie version of Hank Williams' 6 More Miles to the Graveyard, a series of electronic renditions of Old English laments, followed as two of the residents inflated several large black balloons with helium. These balloons were wrapped in more black net and open umbrellas. Then friends approached with members of Snakefinger, and these items were combined into a package that was attached to the giant bobbing black mass. As the final lament was sung, the whole structure was launched into the clear night sky and watched by all until it was no longer visible. This is a really, really good album. And But again, you know, as you heard from the needle drop, the Residence is not necessarily something for everyone. But I do like my my weird music. I do like it. Which then brings us to the last one here, and that is from Japanese guitarist Kazuo Imai, and it's called Far and We. And I just saw this in the bin, you know, and they had this little sticker on it. Black Editions continue their fantastic vinyl reissue campaign with this 2004 recording by the Japanese avant-garde guitarist Kazuo Imai. Acoustic improvisations that will appeal to fans of Derek Bailey and Bill Orcutt. Now, I don't know who Derek Bailey and Bill Orcutt are. I've not listened to their music, but it sounded intriguing. So I bought it. And I will play for you one, snippet from one of the tracks. Yeah, okay. Whole records like that. This opening track, my best description of it is it sounds like an orangutan playing guitar, but only after many, many hours of intense practice. There's another song on here that sounds like he's taking a half bastard file or, maybe a really coarse bow and dragging it across the nylon strings of the guitar. This is performed live. And yeah, the guitar was with nylon strings. And the another another piece really sounds like, my best description is it sounds like mice running up and down the strings of the guitar. And then there's this cat going bam, 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 bam every once in a while trying to smack one of the mice. Yeah. So, but I like it. I really do. I really, really like this. A really incredible piece. I mean, you know, again, sometimes my musical tastes can be really extreme. You know, but on the flip side, you know, there is music that I don't get when I'm listening to it. For example, My Bloody Valentine, I don't get them. I don't connect with them. Radiohead is a band I just don't get. All right, and these are slightly more mainstream than perhaps this. Even the Big Star debut album, you know, I'm not, it just, and it's supposed to be like this great release, you know, important, significant release. And I finally got a copy of it, and then I listened to it, and I'm like, I don't get it. And yet, I really dig this. So, what are you going to do? Anyway, leave some comments in the down under about, you know, your own thoughts about any of these releases or what you thought about the needle drops that I did. I hope you enjoyed that. And as always, oh, by the way, you know, I do have an Instagram account that I really didn't do anything with music on it, but I am putting, you know, doing some posts and some reels that are more musically inclined, as well as the other things that I post in my Instagram account. You're going to find that not under Calvin Wazoo. You're going to find that under NewsDude76, and that is NEWZDUDE76. To find that account, if you want to follow me on Instagram. So I hope you enjoyed that, and you have a great day and weekend. And always remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.